$20.
Get yourself a cheap-ass projector, take a sheet, hang it outside, and then watch Netflix.
And drill a hole in the wall of the movie theater and siphon off their movies.
I don't think that's
Boom.
a good idea.
Life hack.
Life hack.
Personal growth. Nailed it. You had said there were a couple of other things you wanted to touch on this episode.
Yes, there was a couple other things. Yeah, so something occurred to me the other day, and it actually did come from partially from a podcast that we had a few weeks ago, where you had mentioned like knowing way earlier that you didn't like that you were going to get a divorce or something to that effect,
right?
But that you waited until she decided it as well before you got it fully done. Yeah, and so I was like. I wrote a note down in my phone after I was thinking about that situation, and it was, what I wrote was, are men more willing to be miserable for longer than women are? But then I was thinking, instead of making it like gender specific, like say, are some people more willing to deal with misery for longer than their significant other?
I think so. I think for me, I wasn't thinking about myself as much as I was thinking about I didn't want my son to grow up in a split home. Okay. So while I knew that things were pretty much over between us, I thought to myself, well, you rationalize it any way you can, and you think, like, well, maybe we're just having a rough patch, or, whatever. So maybe we can, if I hold it out for, if I stick it out, maybe eventually things will get better, and then my son doesn't have to grow up with daddy in one house and mommy in another house, and blah, blah, blah. So that was how that was the reason that I didn't say anything, because I was just like, all right, well, we made this commitment. Let's see if we can figure something out. And, I was willing to try and work on stuff.
Somehow make it manageable.
Yeah, but she was not. So I figured, all right, well, to myself, I thought, all right, if you're the one who doesn't want to work on anything, then I'm going to make you be the one to come out and say it.
Gotcha.
Because I'm willing to, I'll go to counseling, I'll do whatever. Let's try and keep this together for as long as we can.
And a lot of that was motivated by the lack of relationship that you had with your father too.
Well, I mean, maybe. I'm sure that factored in somehow, but like I always knew I wasn't going to be an absentee father.
Right.
I just, coming from a broken home myself, I wanted to do my best to keep it together for his sake for as long as I could. Okay. Because when we get along, we have a good time with each other.
You and your wife.
My ex-wife.
Sorry. Yeah.
My ex-wife and I, when we're in a good place, we can joke with each other. We can hang out. We can get along with each other. Great. It's she doesn't know how to. I'm sure it's not all her fault. Before I say anything that I can't take back, but. She has a way of, when she's not happy, fucking nobody is. You know what I mean? Like, if I'm in a bad mood, I can generally keep it contained to myself. Like I've had days
verbally.
Yeah, I mean, physically, I'm sure maybe I give off some kind of like a
vibe.
I mean, I try not to, especially with a child who picks up on stuff like that. So even if I'm in a terrible mood, or I'm tired, or I've had a bad day at work, or blah blah blah, I can generally tend to try to turn it off if I'm in a situation where, like, if I know I have a show that night, and I mean, and I've performed after a breakup where I was not in any place mentally that I felt. I wasn't in any place mentally to be funny, but it was an improv show. So I knew I didn't have to go up there by myself. I knew I had other people around me who were going to pick up any slack that I might have left.
And that you could feed on
Yeah,
energetically.
and so I was able to just kind of, I didn't have to focus on my, pre-written, rehearsed, practiced material. I could just black out and have fun.
Mm-hmm.
Not the kind of blacking out that leads to a hangover, but just like a mental kind of blacking out.
Just like turn the, I have to be this thing off.
Yeah, and that probably comes from just being a performer in general and, having to put on a happy face for the world. Mm-hmm. So I'd like to think I'm better at, keeping my stuff to myself than she is. Which, again, I have to imagine that I had to have played some part in whatever negativity or negative energy she was feeling.
Right.
But, I'm not here to cast blame or whatever. The point is,
you're also not here to carry weight that's not yours to carry.
Well, sure. But I just, not that she's ever going to listen to any of these.
But if she does.
I don't want it, I don't want to have to answer for, you know what I mean? Because it's just a big pain in the ass. So totally. I will say that,
I think
we were both at fault in our own ways, but I was at least willing to try and fix it and make it work so that we could kind of see how long we could do it. So I do think that some people are more willing to stay in situations where they're not happy right now because maybe they'll be happy again in a little while. Like maybe if you can just deal with this rough patch, that maybe things will get better.
Gotcha. It was
a really long-winded way of getting there.
I loved every second of that long-winded explanation. I hate that I just said that out loud.
Personal growth, baby.
No, so
PGP.
So the part there was like this was a thing that was like this. So squirrel brain, right?
Yeah.
I go, oh, I think this one thought, and then that thought leads to another thought, and that thought leads to another thought. So in the way that this thing went in my head, I was thinking about that thing with you, and then it went directly from there to, oh yeah, I had a conversation with Bree Jones about, like, she's starting to get, she's got a couple of ins with a couple of bookers throughout the Northwest.
Right.
And I was like, how do you, like, get into that? Because like I'm asking because I'm thinking of you.
Aw,
and she's
sweet.
like, well, blah 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 blah, and I was like, man, I would really love to see it if Eric could get some of these connections that you're getting. How, like, what would you need to do to be able to make something like that happen, like to make these connections? And she's like, well, you just kind of like got to go out of town and stuff. And she was like, and he's expressed some stuff about why that's difficult. And you and I have had some conversations about why that's difficult. But she had mentioned something that either I was unaware of or I just didn't realize. Being a parent with shared custody, you're confined to the state of Idaho?
Yeah. Well, I can't move anywhere.
Right, okay.
Without permission. Like,
right.
If I say, I'll say all my dreams come true and I get cast on Saturday Night Live. I still have to get permission from my ex-wife to move out of state. So she would have to say, all right, fine, you can do that. Otherwise, I can't go.
And this is all under the, like, this idea of shared custody, right?
Yes.
Like, if you guys worked it out to where, like, you had him for one half of the year and she had him for the other half of the year, or like the school year versus the summer or whatever. These are all things that would come into play in that conversation of, hey, I'm moving. Yeah. These are the things that I'd like to see, or if possible.
Absolutely.
If they're possibilities. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So,
like, I can travel. If I want to travel with him, I need to give her notice, and I can't. I think if we're going to be gone, I want to say more than 3 days, then I have to have her permission to take him with me if I want to go somewhere. And if I wanted to move with him, then I absolutely need her permission. But even if I wanted to move on my own,
Right.
I can travel as long as I give her notice, like, hey, I'm going out of town for a couple of days. Here are the days, so I'm not going to be available. That's a little more doable because it's just me, and it's only temporary. And, like, I still have to talk to her about, at the end of the month, February 21st and 22nd, I'm doing I'm doing 2 shows in Elko, Nevada.
Okay.
So I'll be
Is
out of
that
town
with
for a
Dave
couple nights.
Mancarelli?
No, somebody else. Albert Harmer, I want to say his name is, reached out to me via Facebook and was like, hey, do you have a clip? I was like, yeah. Or maybe I reached out to him. He posted something in a thing, and I was like, I'm interested. And then they booked me for February. So but it's on a weekend, and I don't generally have him on the weekends, so it won't be a problem. But anything I do like that, I have to go through her.
In case, like, there's some emergency type shit going on.
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
And she can veto, but it also works in reverse. Like, if she wants to move, like, there have been times we've had a couple of arguments, and she's like, well, what if I wanted to move here? And I've said, you can go. He stays here.
Yeah.
Because I have the power to do that.
Right.
And so does she. So it's an equal.
So it's mutually,
yes,
like, respect, like mutual respect for both of y'all.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so the Elko, Nevada.
Yes.
2-night kind of deal?
Yep.
Friday, Saturday?
Friday, Saturday.
2 shows?
Well, a show a night, I believe.
Yeah, so Friday night show,
Saturday
night show. Not a double feature.
I don't think so. No.
Nice.
Yeah, so that'll be fun.
Do you get to open again for Jay Moore this year?
No, that's actually the same weekend Jay Moore's going to be in town.
Okay, I was going to say, it sounded like it was right around that same time.
Yeah, I agreed. I agreed to the shows before I double checked the dates. So I had to talk to people about it, and it's cool. Like, I'm not needed for the shows that. I mean, ideally they would like it if I was there, but they're not going to stand in the way of because the whole reason we work at a comedy club is to. One of the reasons, anyway, is to advance our careers.
Right. And that's why you were asking if Hugo was working that weekend, right?
Yes.
Okay. Obviously, I had no reason to put 2 and 2 together there.
Right.
Because I didn't even know we were doing math.
Yeah. But, yeah, we got it all sorted out, and so I can go do these shows with a clear conscience.
Nice.
Yeah.
Well, you will be missed. It's always more smooth with sold-out shows while you're there.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that.
You're quite welcome.
So what else is on your mind, big guy?
I don't know, man. Like, I've been thinking a lot about... This is the personal growth podcast, right?
Indeed it is.
And something that I really, really want to be able to do is to be adding value to the lives of the people that are listening to it.
Yes.
And sometimes, like, that value is going to come in the form of pure entertainment, and I think that's completely okay.
Sure.
But I also really would like to have some, like, practical and applicable value too. Okay. And I don't know exactly how we're going to get there. I think part of I mean, I was talking with Aaron last week. I think it was Aaron last week where, like, the being able to see different people's perspective and then like mirroring that perspective against our own and realizing how much different we are from each other. I think it's really important, and that in itself could be value that is being added to the lives of our listeners.
It's something I try to do quite a bit even in my everyday interactions. I try to put myself in somebody else's shoes and why are they, somebody's in a bad mood or whatever the case. I always just try to relate to them on a...
Except for flat earthers.
Oh, yeah, fuck them, because you're being willfully ignorant.
I'm sorry.
And I can't tolerate buffoonery.
Squirrel! I'm just kidding. But yeah, you were saying...
No, that I do try to do that in my, everyday interactions. Like if we're at work and somebody snaps at me about something, I don't get mad. I think to myself, all right, well, what's going on with them right now that's putting them in this mood. And then I think, oh, we're very busy. Somebody's probably waiting for a drink, or whatever the case may be.
Or somebody just